Now, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard of the movie Sinners by now. And Sinners has been praised for its untraditional plot that works so well. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down and analyzing the true meaning of the ending of Sinners and fully explaining how each character's decision in the end of the movie ultimately represents their eternal salvation or eternal damnation. So the first decision comes after Smoke killing most of the members of the clan. And the clan itself is interesting because they're almost a parallel to the vampires who were trying to come in the same place not even 24 hours before. And they really just symbolize, like the vampires, evil in the world and how greedy money can make people. So Smoke pretty much mows them down one by one, and he pretty much just goes on a rampage completely. But then something interesting happens with the leader of the clan. As he's crawling away, slowly bleeding out, Smoke asks him,
"You got a cigarette?"
And it's interesting because since the start of the scene, Smoke has been trying to light a cigarette like he commonly does to ease his pain, but he doesn't have his brother Stack to light that cigarette. And yet again we see this parallel where the owner is able to provide a cigarette for Smoke, as he's representing Stack, but not the Stack that Smoke commonly knows, the Stack that's turned into a vampire and turned to a hellish lifestyle of Earth. And that's where the biggest decision in this scene comes in, as when Smoke is sitting there bleeding out lighting a cigarette, he sees a vision of Annie and her child, Elijah. And it's interesting because the first thing Annie tells him,
You put that cig out, you can hold her.
and this is very important because throughout the movie we've seen Smoke constantly smoking and this symbol of cigarettes with him, and it ultimately represents an escape from all this dangerous things that he's gone through throughout his life. Yet the cigarettes really only temporarily ease this pain, and he's still put in dangerous scenarios. But then a huge shift comes, and Smoke actually puts out the cigarette. Now this is very important because Smoke has now been the first one to choose a more heavenly-like lifestyle, and ultimately chooses that when he's dying, he will live out his life eternally in heaven with his newfound family. This is then restated when
Listen,
the clan member asks,
I got money.
to which Smoke replies, and then holds his child and begins his eternal life with family in heaven. Yet, if you watch the movie, you know how throughout it, Smoke has a literal and figurative parallel, who is his twin brother Stack. Yet, as the movie goes on, and we see how the two twins are so similar and almost identical in terms of their actions, and very importantly, their relationships, we see in the end of the movie how Stack chooses the exact opposite of salvation, and how the juxtaposition of the twins' relationship only builds more and more through their choices. So before we analyze the choice Stack makes at the end of the movie, it's important to note one crucial detail in this juxtaposition of the twins, which is the color they wear. Now, Smoke wears blue, which commonly can symbolize peace and heavenly things, while Stack throughout the movie is mostly dressed in red, which commonly symbolizes hell and temptation. And even when Stack is not turned to a vampire yet, he still is dressed in red because throughout the movie, his main goal is to make money. Whether it be through sin or not, he still sees Sammy's gift of playing the guitar and thinks of money or the greedful side of it. And we then see this again when he's turned to a vampire, as he tries to tempt Smoke into joining Remek's army. And it's interesting because even before Stack was turned to a vampire, he chose a lifestyle of evil through the money he made. And then when he got turned, this only ramped up more, and he found freedom in this hellish lifestyle. Now, another important thing in this decision, and also in this juxtaposition of Smoke and Stack, is the relationships they have. As throughout the movie, we've seen how Smoke and Annie have been together, and ultimately they fall back into love, and their heavenly-like lifestyle. And similarly, Stack and Mary fall back into love, but through a hellish lifestyle that is on earth. And their love only continues because the evil of the world exists. So then we make it to the final scene of the movie, and in turn, we make it to the final decision of the ending, which is Sammy's choice. Now it's interesting because technically Sammy has two choices in the end of the movie. The first choice is whether or not he wants to actually pursue a career in music. And throughout the whole movie, this is what he's been struggling with, as he wants to stay loyal to the church and to his father, but as he goes through the movie, he learns that throughout his life he's only been corrupted and lied to, and has really had no control of what he actually wants to do. And initially Smoke is against this, because he obviously wants to protect his younger cousin. But as he goes through the movie, he realizes that he really does need to give Sammy his own sense of freedom, which is the same type of freedom that he makes Stack promise, as he makes Stack promise to never hurt Sammy. So then we get to Sammy's second decision, which occurs years and years later, after Sammy has then made a career in music. And one night when Sammy's in a bar alone, he sees Stack and Mary walk in the door. And during Stack and Sammy's conversation, the first thing Stack notices about Sammy is that he's clearly aging and his death is coming soon. And as Stack begins tempting Sammy, we're reached with the final decision of the movie, which is Sammy going to choose salvation or damnation? Sammy then says,
I think I've seen enough of this place.
and Sammy saying no is very, very interesting, because Sammy knows and has seen now that the world is bad and does not want to remain in it forever, which is why he says no to Stack and the hellish-like lifestyle of our world, and says yes to being able to die and visit his cousin Smoke, who initially tried to protect him from this dangerous lifestyle, which is also why Sammy has shifted in the way he dresses, as before he used to dress like Stack, but has now come to the realization that if he wants to get to heaven and gain eternal peace, he has to embrace what Smoke did and give up the world and all its worldly things. Sammy also says no because Stack has always viewed Sammy's guitar as a form of money, which is why he pays him after the song. But Smoke sees this as evil, which is why he also told Sammy that this guitar was evil and from his evil dad. But similar to Stack, he initially gave him that freedom to pursue music if he wanted to, and gain an escape from control and freeing to embrace his culture of blues music. And because Sammy has now seen this as well, he denies Stack because he knows that he only wants to use his gifts for evil. And because Sammy again does not fall into the temptation of giving his gifts to the vampires, he ultimately saves himself and is able to choose eternal salvation. Alright, so that's going to wrap up the video today, guys. I would love to hear your opinions and thoughts below. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.